Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of ProFo Convos. I am LaMantia, career counselor from the counseling department here at Beaufort County Community College. I am so excited because today we have an amazing guest, MaryCatherine, and she's going to speak to you about everything nursing. So MaryCatherine, thank you so much for joining us today. I want to jump right in. So please tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started in your nursing field.
Hi, thank you for having me. I've been a nurse for 15 years now, and originally that was not the plan. I had a couple of other plans in mind first. I actually do have a 4-year degree in speech pathology, as well as a 4-year degree in nursing. I originally, after I got done with speech, wanted to become a physician, and ended up having some health issues in college and thought that I wouldn't survive being a resident, which was totally stupid because now I'm a mother. And if you can survive motherhood, you can survive anything. Anyway, so I kind of had to regroup and decided, my mom's a nurse, and I decided, well, I'll just, do nurse practitioner. And in a very roundabout way. And so I didn't have any of the sciences I needed for nursing, because speech doesn't have any of that. And so I had to basically do another whole 4 years of college to get everything I needed for nursing. And that's kind of how I landed in there. Now, no, I'm not a nurse practitioner. That didn't happen because, one, children, but two, when I got out and actually started practicing nursing, I realized that I'm with the patient 13 hours a day, 12, 13, 14 hours a day. And nurse practitioners, physicians, PAs are not. And they would come to me and say, what's going on with my patient? You've been with them all day, what the deal is. And so I'd actually get to know my patients better than I felt like if I did a higher degree. And that's still sort of true now. Not completely, but that's what I felt like. I was like, well, I know my patient better than they know their patient. And I felt very honored when they would come to me and say, hey, did you have my patient last night? I'm really glad it was you, and tell me about what's going on and what you noticed. And then, of course, marriage and children happened. And yes, there are a lot of people that go back to college when they're married with children. And I'm grateful they can do that. I am not one of those people.
But I'm glad you at least mentioned that point, because there are so many different types of students that we have at college. So just hearing that little bit of your story there and just those little insights, I know are going to be valuable to anyone who's watching this. So
yeah, and I'm working with people who are back in college, and they're moms, they're single parents, they're spouses have lost jobs, and so it's really hard, but I'm watching them make it, and that's awesome. I'm really glad to see that for them.
Love it. You said you did speech pathology, and you went into getting your nursing degree. So what really interested you in going for nursing?
I wanted to be able to do more to help people. I really liked children. This is before I had them. I really like children. I really enjoyed when I did speech. But I felt like I wanted to do something more. And I really had this dumb thought that was too much paperwork. I don't know what I was thinking with that, because nursing is a lot of paperwork as well. I mean, now it's all computer, but still there's a lot of documentation. And I also worked with pediatric patients, and have learned maybe it was a good thing I didn't do that.
Okay.
So, I still like children. I still love them, and I absolutely hate it when they're sick, mine or anybody else's. And so it's probably a good thing I didn't completely go into just working with kids.
Okay, good. Thank you for that. There's so many qualities you need to be a nurse, of course, but what do you think are some of the strongest characteristics somebody does need to be successful in this field?
Right. Well, you definitely have to have compassion.
Mhm.
And it's very easy to lose it when you've been in it for a while. Um, it's that's something you just need to keep. And a lot of times I will look at a situation and think, what if that were my mom? What if
Mm.
that was my husband? What if that was my child? And you get a different perspective when you can say that, as opposed to, oh my gosh, I cannot believe they're acting this way. So keeping compassion is definitely a big one. I'm looking down because I wrote notes down. Organized. You got to be organized. It's some sort of organizational skills, and everybody's organization is different. Um, but that's definitely a big one. And you've got to be motivated. Nursing, medicine in general is always changing, and you've just got to be motivated to stay on top of what's going on in your field, whatever section you actually go into.
Excellent. So it sounds like you need to continue with some empathy. You have to have a true care and compassion for the field, or else you better just turn around, make it
Yeah,
and pick something else right away.
yeah,
Yourself really nice and organized and stay motivated to just keep going and keep learning and keep engaging in things in the field.
absolutely.
Fantastic. So what then do you like most about your work? And we got to hear on the flip side, something you
So,
like the least, maybe.
right. Okay. So, what I really enjoy is the variety that you have in nursing.
Mm.
There's so many different things you can go into. I mean, really, it's an extremely open field. It's not just, oh, I have to work as a floor nurse at the hospital. That's not it at all. There's so many different avenues you can do as a nurse. And I really, really like that in nursing. The least favorite thing, probably the hours.
Mhm.
And again, it depends on what job you have as a nurse. I've been a clinic nurse where I worked Monday through Friday, no weekends, no holidays. That's fabulous. I've been a floor nurse, and you work whenever, all the time, and you get flipped from day shift to night shift. So um, the hours is definitely can be brutal. I mean, there's just no better word. It can be brutal. You are essential personnel, period. You don't get out for hurricanes or snow. You don't get out when there's a pandemic. You don't get to work from home, that kind of thing.
Thank you for all that. And while we're not specifically focusing on COVID, is there anything you can tell our students now or new graduates that could prepare them in the event that maybe they're entering the workforce during this pandemic, or God forbid, this is something they do encounter in their career at some point?
You got to be flexible. That's probably one of the biggest things in nursing, in medicine in general. You just have to learn to be flexible. You got to learn to roll with the punches, and because at any second it changes.
Mhm.
Whether it's the rules that are involved, whether it's we're having this situation, and even with patients, it's the same exact thing. You can have a wonderful patient, and all of a sudden they're crashing, and you're like, what happened? You don't have time to figure out what happened. You have to act, and you have to be able to just go with the flow.
So it sounds like a bit of your emotions have to be a little compartmentalized so you
That's
can
true.
focus on what's going on. And that might be something that students or graduates are a little confused about. And there's a lot of blurred lines when it's time to work. And then there's a lot of time for caring, but there's some
Right.
moments that you have to just do the job.
Yes, exactly. You do. And hopefully when your job is done, you have a minute to step back and be able to absorb everything that happened.
So it sounds
And
like a
there
little
are
bit of
times like that.
it sounds like a little bit of self-care is definitely needed
Yes.
in the position and in the field also.
Yes.
Thank you. So we kind of just got into this now, but how does this career actually affect your lifestyle?
So right now I actually work weekends because of children. and daycare is very expensive.
Mhm.
And so for us, my husband and I decided that it would be better for me to work weekends, and he's off on the weekends. And so we don't have to shell out a whole bunch of money for daycare. And so that really, in the beginning, it worked out very well. And it's still working out very well right now because I'm off Tuesday through Friday. I can pick the kids up from school. I can take them to school. They have appointments or things they want to do. I'm there to be able to do that. But now they have things that they want to do on the weekends. And, well, mommy, why can't you come do this? And why can't you come to my basketball game? And why can't you? And, my husband and I don't have time off together. So that's really starting to get old. So that's family life, mentally, physically, and emotionally. Having to deal with some of the things we deal with is really, really hard. And you can develop a very sick sense of humor just to deal with it. So, when you get a bunch of medical people together, we might be joking about something that other people will be like, oh my God, I cannot believe you're talking about that like that. And you're like, yeah, well, I deal with it every day.
Yeah, yeah.
So, it's kind of like a coping mechanism.
You mentioned a couple things there that stood out, and one seemed to be about communication with your, I guess, significant other or
Yeah.
family, and then definitely a good support system, whether
Yes.
it is home, extended family, your work crew. It sounds like those two things, communication and support, are really vital to you just almost surviving every day.
It really is. And, I at least knew what I was getting into because my mom was a nurse. And so, she wasn't there at Christmas. She wasn't there at Thanksgiving. And so I knew that. That was a huge part of going into the medical field.
Okay. What now we're kind of getting into COVID again, but maybe there's some other answers here. What current issues or trends in the field should students and graduates really be aware of?
How much computer stuff there is.
Okay.
And that's easier for the younger generation. Um, I came in when things were computerized, but you still did paper charting. And so I had both of it. My mom, God bless her, total paper charting,
I bet.
and then had to ease into the computer charting. And, she was in her 40s, I think, when the computer thing started happening, and she was completely blown away from it and hated every minute of it. But if you have very strong computer skills, that is a huge plus. And I know that sounds really strange for a nursing job, but a
No.
lot of our documentation is on a computer system now. And so just to have that knowledge base is very important.
So don't knock those computer classes
No.
in college, because you
Yes.
absolutely need those skills to apply them on the job.
Yes, typing, all the different types of, because even if you're not necessarily taking care of patients at the bedside, whatever nursing job you're going to get, you're going to have to use all of your computer skills with that job. I did research nursing as one of the jobs that I've had. And I mean, that was, oh my gosh, we lived on the computer, just putting in data and information and, all those different things. So I think that is a huge thing people need to be aware of. It's not just blood and guts and people dying and,
Right.
it's something you don't think about. The other thing people don't think about, on top of being computer, you have to be the IT person. You have to be an engineer. You have to be the janitor. There's all these other little jobs that you don't really get taught in nursing school, or you don't really think about as a nurse, but you end up doing. Like I said, I work weekends. Technically, my department's closed, so we go to the bedside to do our procedures. So that means it's a very, very, very skeleton crew. And I ended up one weekend having to fix a computer monitor on the road cart.
Okay.
I had to fix the internet on my on the road cart. I had to fix some things with our scope reprocessing machines. I also had to become the janitor and take out garbage that wasn't taken out. And so you know, there's just a lot of things that come up with the job that you don't necessarily think of at the first thing when you say, "Oh, I'm a nurse." You know, you automatically think, you know, "Oh, you're doing chest compressions and things like
Like
that."
TV
Right,
nurse, right? Yeah.
exactly. Which it happens. It does
Right.
happen. But then there's so many other things. Like there's loads of time I am having to explain why something is delayed or why your
Mm.
doctor's not here or exactly what's going on with you, and actually taking the time and sitting down and saying, you know, this is why we're doing X, Y, and Z. And sometimes you just have to sit there and let a patient get mad and angry and cry. And really, that's all they wanted to do. And just to know that you're there to listen to them.
Aw, that was sweet. I skipped over this question,
Sure.
but then you brought it back up. So what's more valuable, your education or experience? Now,
Now, your
you
experience
can't be a nurse without the education, but I'll let you take it away from here.
is totally your experience. I did very well in school. I did very well in nursing school. And but none of that prepares you for actual nursing. And that might make people that are teaching mad. Yes, you do have to have the knowledge base. I mean, you just do. You have to know the body, you have to know illnesses, you have to know how things work. And that's really, really important. Um, but once you get out there and you see it firsthand, that's what makes a difference. That's when it starts clicking and you're like, oh, I got it now. So
Mm.
we learned all this book stuff, and now I see a real live human being, and nobody is picture perfect from the book. Nobody that you will ever meet. If you meet somebody who is by the book, and then they're lying to you. Nobody's disease process ever goes by the book.
Mm.
There's always something that's a little different. And that's just true for every human being. So definitely your experience. So one of the biggest things I can tell people, especially you know, in nursing school and when you're going to do your clinicals, go and see whatever you can see. Go and get in any procedure you can get in. Go and watch everything you can watch and ask as many questions as you can. There's no dumb question ever. You know, the dumb question is when you don't ask and then you make a mistake. Always ask
Right.
questions, and just try and see as much as you can.
Oh, that was great. Great advice. Students, graduates, you're hearing it right from the professional, okay?
Yeah.
Thank you for that. What about accomplishments? What other things could you possibly do, or what other accomplishments tend to be valued by supervisors, administrators, higher ups?
Um, I wrote some things down. Um, you know, obviously people that show up
Mm-hmm.
on time. That's a
Yeah.
big one. Show up on time and be ready.
Mm-hmm.
Someone who works quickly, but not to the point of just doing it to get by.
Mm.
I don't know a better way to
Maybe
phrase
like
that.
efficiently, or smarter,
Yes,
not harder kind of thing.
right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Mhm.
You know, people who know when to say, "Hey, I need help with this. Come and help me with this." Um, you know, one of the biggest things is noticing a problem before it's a problem.
Okay.
And I know that sounds very strange, but you know, once you get into nursing and you start looking at patients, you kind of end up getting this, you know, I'm seeing their vital signs and they're not terrible, but they're not the same as they were.
Mm.
And they just don't look good, but they're not really complaining of anything, those kind of things. And then, you know, you can just say, you know, you can call the physician and say, hey, can you come take a look at so and so? Or I think we need to look at this.
Mm.
Um, and you're kind of ahead of the patient getting worse.
And that's where and that's where your experience comes in, like you said.
Exactly.
Be able to get that feel, or be able to see and notice those little nuances or changes
Yes,
until you really get a good handle on what you're doing. And that's
exactly.
a great point to make. If so, we have all these students now, they're either preparing or they just entered the field. What kind of steps would you recommend a student? Let's say they just graduated and they're really trying to find a position in the field. What do you think are their best strategies to go do that?
So the advice I was given was to start on like a general floor
Mhm.
and then build your experience from there. I'm not going to give you that advice. My advice is if you know I want to deliver babies, then go get hired on L&D.
Okay.
If you like, I left and I thought I really want to work pediatrics. I didn't do that. I started on general floor.
Mhm.
However, when I went to pediatrics, I didn't like it.
Okay.
Um, I might have figured that out sooner had I just said I'm going to get hired on a pediatric floor and work with that. And then I had, ladies that I went to school with who that's what they said. Oh, I want to be a midwife. I'm going to go work on L&D. And two of the ladies that were just gung ho about that did it and hated every minute of it.
Wow. Wow.
So if you know this is my passion, this is what I want to do, I would go for that. If you're not sure, then I'd start someplace general.
Okay.
And then depending upon what your course of study is going to be, like some people know I'm going to do nursing and then I want to do either nurse practitioner or nurse anesthetist, then you need to look at what you need to do for that. Like for nurse anesthetist, you need to go to ICU. You just go to ICU. Get hired at ICU, do your ICU time, and then I think it's 2 years ICU before you can do nurse anesthetist school. I think, I'm not sure.
Okay.
But if you know in your heart this is what I want to try, then I would start with that.
Great. I just learned some stuff. That's why I love doing these also, because I get to learn more about it. So thank you for that. So you got this grad, they just listened to some of your advice and now they're starting out new. They are brand new workers in the nursing field. What kind of advice do you have for someone who is brand new? They're starting their first day, their week, their month. What's your best advice for those?
I think kind of the same thing I've said already. See as much as you can see. Be involved as much as you can. Ask as many questions as you can. If you have to come home and study something, then do it. I mean, there's no shame in that. You don't know everything when you graduate.
Mm-hmm.
You're not supposed to know everything when you graduate.
Mm-hmm.
There's just some things that you pick up as you keep doing it.
All right. Perfect. Perfect. So I always love to talk about things like the and factor and like what you just said, go study something. So if we're talking about anything else a student or graduate could do as far as trade journals, magazines, social media, associations, is there anything in that area you can suggest to them to get involved in, take a look at, or research?
So I did look up how many nursing magazines or journals there are. There are over 300.
Wow.
I didn't know there were that many, but
Wow.
there's basically a journal for every type of nurse you can think of.
Okay.
There's also for North Carolina, there's the North Carolina Nursing Association, which is your basic association that you can be a part of.
Mhm.
Most universities have a student nursing association.
Okay.
Those are really good places to start. And then once you get out in your field, there's a lot of times where there are associations with your field. Like right now, I am in endoscopy, and there's a whole group of endoscopy nurses that get together. There's critical care nursing organizations. So
Okay.
if you're interested in something more specific, there is an organization for it.
Great, great. You just mentioned some great ones. And I really recommend to all of you watching that you get on that phone, get on that computer and start researching them and joining whatever it is you can. Of course, talk to everybody at your institution, college, or university and see what you can get involved in yourself as well. So thank you for that. I would appreciate, I guess, if anybody had any questions, would we be able to just at least share your email with them if
Of course.
they contact you for anything?
Sure.
Okay, I thank you for that. Sometimes people, they feel a little weird and I also don't want to share any personal information. So maybe an email could be something good where someone maybe really connected with you and everything you had to say in your story today. So I really appreciate you being able to let me share that. That way anybody can just drop you a line.
Oh yeah.
So much for that.
Well, and so there's this old adage that nurses eat their young, and I really hope that's not true anymore.
Mm.
It was getting better when I got out, and so I really hope that's not true anymore, but I know that it's still, a lot of people feel that way.
Mhm.
And if, if you do run across people that you work with that are like that, my suggestion is you will find somebody who isn't, and it will be more than happy to help you and share with you, how to get through.
Fantastic. Yeah, we hope, we really hope, and we all know people are people. And there's
Yeah.
going to be those people that you're not going to click with, but there's going to be more people you do or you are able to go to than not. So great. And I want to say we've gone through our questions today, and I'm really, really thankful for all this information that you have provided. You as students and graduates, I hope you really got some great information from MaryCatherine as well. We wanted to make this a little short and sweet and just give you some, well, not really hands-on, but our Zoom world version of really hearing a professional out in that field. So MaryCatherine, to end, what kind of advice, last words of wisdom, something maybe passed down or not, could you give to anybody who's watching this today?
Just don't lose your compassion. That's probably the biggest thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it hurts when somebody dies, and no, you can't usually have a moment in that type of situation, but just don't lose your compassion and always put yourself in that situation. How would you react if that were happening to you or your loved one? And I think that makes you treat them a little bit differently and a little better.
Well, that was a beautiful note to leave us off on. So I, again, thank you so much for your time. Students, graduates, I will definitely be posting MaryCatherine's email here. And for any further information, you can always contact me in the counseling department or Kimberly Jackson, our director of counseling. You can email us at careercounseling@beaufortccc.edu. And I hope to see you soon. So again, MaryCatherine, thank you so much for this. It was really our pleasure to have you join us here on ProFo Convos. Thank you so much for speaking on the topic of nursing, and we wish you the best. And again, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank
And
you.
stay safe, stay healthy. We thank you so much as an essential worker and a just front line right now, right? I'm sure you can hear those phrases every single day. We thank you for everything you do for keeping everybody healthy in our community. All right, hitting them again. Thanks a lot, guys. Take care, and we will talk to you again soon.